want to experiment using this whiteboard to explain some of the concepts to see if that's a better way to communicate some of the concepts of the more technical one. So definitely give me some feedback regarding what you think about it. Is it more clear if I use this whiteboard? Okay, traffic. What comes to your mind when we mention the word traffic? For some of you who've already done the previous 12-week program, it might be the number of people sent to your website through the ads, right? But for some of you who are not so sure what traffic is, we'll explain it using the offline context first to tell you more about why traffic is important for a business. We'll use a gallery, specifically the Holzer and Worth Gallery in London, the Mayfair one, which is located near Savile Row, where people get tailored suits. It's near Liberty, the department store in London. It's also one of the most expensive regions to actually own a shop or have an office in London. The rent that Holzer and Worth is paying will be roughly between 8,000 to 50K per month. So we're just estimating as 30K just for this purposes. What is traffic? So people who basically just become aware such a gallery called Holzer and Worth exists by passing through the location. There's roughly about 3,000 people who pass by Holzer and Worth on a daily basis. What are warm traffic? So warm traffic are those who take an interest in the business. A benchmark of someone passing by and entering a well-known gallery is between 5 to 10%. It could be lower or higher, depending on which gallery it is. So we just made an estimate of 5%. That would be about 150 people enter into the gallery. And what are the hot traffics? Among those people who actually enter into the gallery, these are potential art collectors who are seriously interested, have already purchased from Holzer and Worth, or very likely to basically convert into a customer. For instance, you go to an affordable art fair, you have one booth that's allocated for you. Traffic is the people who pass by. Warm traffic are the people who actually entered and maybe subscribe to the newsletter or follow you on Instagram. And hot traffic are the ones who actually purchase something from you. This is how we would explain in simple terms cold, warm, and hot traffic. Another metric in marketing is the cost of getting those people. If you run an ad, what is the cost of getting 3,000 people to pass by? In digital terms, we're paying for the digital traffic to get people to your online store. So Facebook and Instagram basically run on an auction basis, cost per 1,000 impressions or CPM. What's the cost of getting 1,000 people to pass by my Instagram or my online store? But for gallery terms, how do we calculate that? There are 3,000 people passing by and we assume 30 days. We basically get the statistics of approximately 90K people per month. How much are they paying for 1,000 impressions? The rent for the location is about 30K. We've divided 90K by 1,000 because it's 1,000 impressions. And then it will be approximately 333 pounds to get those 1,000 people to pass by the gallery. That's cold traffic. Is it profitable for Holzer and Worth to do? If we calculate it down, warm traffic will be about 4,500 people, and hot traffic is about 225 people. Obviously, this is based on our hypothesis, right? Because their artworks pricing is quite high, between 50K or even millions, because it's a blue chip gallery. Basically, doesn't need a lot of work to get result. Let's assume even if it gets 2 out of these 225 collectors to pay 50K for each painting, it will be 100K. That's 3 times the rent, right? So very profitable, very much worth the 30K rent to establish a gallery in Mayfair. Same principles apply for Instagram and Facebook ads. The CPM for Facebook ads, depending on which geographical locations you're targeting, it can be all the way from 10 to 100 or even 200. But we see CPM around 10 to 15. We'll explain a bit later why since last year it has almost doubled. So sometimes depending on certain regions, US would be more expensive, like CPM would be 20 or 30. Still reasonable compared to Mayfair. What's different about Mayfair is obviously you get all these hedge funds, financial services, luxury boutiques. So you already get this quality traffic. going around the stores. If this gallery space was in Edinburgh, the rent will be a lot less, right? But also the quality would be a lot less. That's simply the traffic system. Whether you go for an organic traffic or paid traffic, same principles apply for all these funnels. Let's hypothetically assume it's a new gallery. One of you who somehow got the funds decided you're going to be there. Let's put the example of Kit. This gallery is going to move from Southern England to Mayfair. Kit hasn't established himself as famous as Halston Worth. He doesn't have much data on those conversion rates, whether he's meeting those benchmarks. How would he drive traffic to a physical place, right? Through this exercise, we're going to learn about the organic versus paid. He still has to pay the 30K rent. He still has the cold traffic, 3,000 people passing by, but he might suffer on the warm traffic. People might not know his gallery's name as well as Halston Worth. Let's assume now that drops 3%. That's 100 people. What can he do to increase this 3%? Maybe potentially put on the billboard of his gallery to incentivize people to go from 3% to 10%. In a way, how can he improve the conversion rate? He might come up with a better offer. One example I want to give is, for instance, there's this Bright Moments gallery, which is a NFT algorithmic generative art gallery. To incentivize people to enter, they put stickers outside of the pavements of the gallery and said, enter if you want to get free NFT. So people just followed a trail of these flyers to basically go into the gallery and get a free NFT in the gallery. So he might change up some kind of an offer to get more cold traffic. That's something he can do. What does that mean in digital terms? So that's your website page. You want to polish it to make it better. People are more likely to stay longer, or you change the offer. Not that I recommend a free offer, but if you get a free offer, obviously people are more likely to come. If you have a poster here, a lot more traffic will come in. So that's something you can control on your own store end. What is something that you can do organically? You might prepare 100 or even 200 flyers. You partner with a coffee shop next by, maybe there's a coffee shop here. You put a flyer of your gallery on every single table. That's one way of cold outreach, right? Or you can go partner with Liberty Shops to put a flyer of your gallery in every shopping bag. That's organic outreach. What is paid outreach? So let's say you use Instagram ads to identify all of those whose location is in Mayfair and it talks about a new offer in your gallery. You get digital awareness and then that translates into more traffic coming in. Organic versus paid. Some people talk about PR. You can pay for press releases. So let's say Mayfair Times, you pay them £2,000 so that people who live around Mayfair or work in Mayfair are aware that you as a gallery exist. Let's say you're making that limited time offer and you reach out to some journalists to cover a press release for you, then it's organically earned hot traffic. Let's say currently your art collectors might be 1%, but the benchmark is 5 to 10%. What medium would you use to communicate with them? So it might be their email, and you can use their email for retargeting ads. So remind them that you exist. They might follow you on social media, so you send out a social media blast. Mostly it's email or phone number. Call them up, invite them to a gallery dinner, and hopefully they will buy from you again. What can you do to increase your revenue? Incentivize the warm traffic to come back and become a collector. Incentivize collectors to purchase more from you and increase the cold traffic or get more qualified traffic. So a few things you can do, for instance, in this case, you will be hosting more VIP invite events to get people to come back and actually purchase. How do you get more qualified traffic? You might be, okay, Mayfair is too small for you. You might want to aim for where wealthier people live. You might want to decide instead of London, you might want to go to New York City because there might be more billionaires there. These are different strategies you would consider to increase your revenue. So enough about physical store traffic. How would we do that in a digital realm? Now let's use the example of purely digital storefront, right? Let's imagine this is your website. It has some art collections. You might have a separate offer page, which, as we mentioned, the introductory offer where you can visit a virtual exhibition, some journals. You might have a limited edition drop page and a commission page. Imagine it all part of the store. How are you getting traffic? You can either do paid or organic. Organic is you are doing things to get some of these impressions organically. What do paid include? You can do Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube. Some people do TikTok, Pinterest, native. You can also do PR. You pay some influencers, billboards in the metro. We're mostly going to focus on Facebook and Instagram because that's where our collectors hang out. Then organic channels, SEO, search engine optimization, but SEO takes years to build, which is why we're not covering it in our course. Organic, you can outreach directly. You can stalk some profiles of Instagram brands and follow who their followers are. That's organic. You're basically not paying, you're just searching. Lead generation, you add people on Instagram and you reach out. So something we will mention in mostly something we will mention is the Lemlist organic outreach. One thing to mention is get an Instagram post. So someone like Teresa, who's very good at coming up with reels and content to get these organic traffic. If one of your social media reels went viral, that's where you get cold traffic organically. Warm traffic. Who are those people? These are the website visitors, people who already follow you on Instagram or Facebook, who signed up for your newsletters. They haven't converted into a collector, but it's likely they will in the future. How do you send them back to your store? Getting traffic from paid retargeting ads on Instagram or Facebook, and also Instagram social media, organic posts, and also email marketing. Once you get their email, you send out emails to get them to come back, right? The hot traffic, so there's paid, which is Facebook, Instagram, and then organic as well. Instagram, social media, email marketing to get them to come back. So that should be clear. How much traffic can you drive? How much does it cost you? What are some of the metrics we need to be looking at so that you have a profitable business, right? So for paid channels, what is the cost per 1,000 impressions? So depending on your audience, as we mentioned, if you're targeting an audience everyone else is targeting, then it's obviously going to be more expensive. So for Facebook, Instagram, generally the benchmark is around £15. If you have advertising budget of, let's say, 150 divided by 15, so you get 50,000 impressions, then what does the funnel look like? Then there are drop-offs. That's purely cold traffic. 1,000 impressions. What happens after impressions are clicked? How many people click on your ads? What would that be like when it's offline? Offline would be as if someone basically pays attention to you. It's as if they read a flyer, they actually spend 5 minutes reading that flyer before coming into the store to become warm traffic. So the benchmark of the link clicks are actually very low for cold traffic, which is 1.5%. 750 people actually. There would be another drop off of approximately like 80% of those people who clicked would actually entered into the gallery. So these would be the warm traffic. 600 people landed in your store. In a physical store, it's easy. People become purchasers or show interest, while online, there are more stages to that. First is like they landed on your page. Then we want to see the action is like adding to cart, initiate checkout, and purchase. There's a drop-off percentage for each of those. What percentage add to cart, depending on how good your website is, how good the offer is. All of these are also tied into the offer and the conversion rate of the website. So the add to cart benchmark is around 2.6 to 8%. The initiate checkout percentage from there is about 30%. And there's another drop off of initiate checkout to purchase is 40%. Obviously, here there's a lot of metrics to track. If you haven't encountered some of these in the ads manager, then it might be a bit confusing. But think of all of these basically what percentage of the landing page viewers became a purchaser. So this is just the website conversion rate. There is variation though. So imagine the conversion rate for an introductory offer might be at 5%. A limited drop page might be 1%. The commission page might be 5%. Website Shopify page might be 0.5%. Each of the offer pages would vary according to the conversion rates. I hope this is clear in terms of the traffic funnel. I want to explain this on a whiteboard because we have a table you can input with all these metrics, and I didn't want to make you feel like, oh my God, I need to fill in so much metrics and it doesn't really make sense. It seems like a mathematical course rather than a marketing course. Something really important to mention is that if you think about it, the conversion rate for someone who's visiting this page for the first time versus the conversion rate for someone following you for a year will look very different for each sector of the audience. So how do we take into account those differences and the different benchmarks applying to them? So we'll do that in a separate sheet of Excel paper where you can calculate that. Now we want to start thinking about what does your traffic system looks like, whether it's online or offline. And this week will be very numbers focused because we are in our business world. But what's a really good saying in the startup world is that what gets measured gets improved, unless that something is measured. We don't know what the gap is in business strategy. So it might feel a bit overwhelming for you, and that's okay. You might not have all the answers for the traffic system now, but by the end of 14 weeks, you'll have a complete traffic system. But right now, I just want you to brainstorm and think about what has worked for you in the past and what are some gaps in the strategy. Maybe you have a physical art studio and you can actually host some art exhibitions and studio visits, which leads to much higher conversion rate than if you were using this online strategy. Then that's a gap you'll identify through this traffic system mapping. So that's the first reason why we're doing this is to identify gaps in your strategy. The second reason why we're doing this is that you would know exactly how many posts actually leads to sales organically, whether you should continue doing it or if your strength lies in creating paid ads and you don't mind spending some money to actually get the return on ad spend, then that might be better than if you post organically. Or if you want to do a combination of both, we'll show you exactly how much ad spend you put in, which leads to X number of traffic. If you send X amount of email, what are the number of traffic that you're driving to your website? So we'll have an Excel sheet with all the numbers that allow you to see according to benchmark. It might be that you're very good at certain things and you're not very good at other things, but this exercise will basically show you the reality of traffic system online and offline. And also basically once you know some of these marketing metrics, you would also know which areas to improve on. So for example, if currently your sales conversion rate is at 20%, which is according to benchmarks, out of 5 people you get on a call with, 1 convert into you. With that metric in mind, you might say, okay, how can I improve it to 50%? And then the reality will look very different. Right? The Excel sheets will tell you exactly how that would change your business and how much revenue would that actually generate. So let's first start with a more brainstorming kind of exercise, which has 3 elements to it. So first is who are your existing customers, whether you've derived that customer list from offline, online, or organically. So that's the first element. And then next one, we'll look at which channels, how are those traffics being generated. So whether it's social media, through a physical gallery. And the last one is what type of offer you actually have for your customers. So don't be shocked if you think, okay, you have to fill out everything. We actually do give you some examples. So if you're really intimidated, you can actually just circle the ones that's relevant for you. But I really do want you to do a bit of brainstorming and think about what are other things that are relevant to you that's not listed here. So I want you to actively think. So for B2C and B2B, these are some of the examples of where are you getting traffic? What are some of these impressions? And one last thing is if you know your number, so for some of you, for instance, someone has 1,571 people on their newsletter list, but you might have already segmented into different segments. So you already know who are the warm traffic, might be the newsletter subscribers, but also you might have an engaged email VIP list. So I want you to quantify it as much as possible if you can. If you don't have a number for it, you might have an estimate. An estimate is okay. We'll see why it's relevant when it comes to the Excel. Yeah, so I would like you to basically brainstorm who are the customers you already have in terms of cold traffic, warm traffic, and hot traffic. And the next part is how are you driving those audiences to your physical store or your online store? So this is, again, some examples. If you're doing everything listed here or something's not relevant, you can basically just delete that. Again, if you can put a metric to some of these things, it would be a lot better. So that's for the how. One really important thing is if you have previously sent email newsletters for people who haven't converted versus the hot traffic, so people who are already your customer, and different results, like this newsletter might be 40% and 2% click rate, and if you have the conversion rate, it might be another conversion rate, whereas hot traffic might actually have a different metrics. If you don't have some of those metrics, that's okay. You will by the end of the 14 week. Same with the retargeting ads with an average of the CTR for warm traffic, hot traffic, and cold traffic. For those of you who have run Facebook ads on different traffic, probably what I'm talking about. And again, a rough figure, we don't have to be exact. If a channel is not relevant for you anymore, just delete it as well. But here we'll just see how you're basically driving traffic to your brand. And the last one, don't worry if you don't know how to fill this out yet, because that's the next few modules about introductory offers and different medium ticket offers or commission pages. But from what you currently have, I would like you to map out what existing assets do you already have. So your warm traffic, so it might be currently your cold traffic are all going to your website, right? And then the average order value of that website is a certain figure and the conversion rate is that percentages. You don't have to fill in for everything. If you don't want to, you can just say, okay, this one I put it here and then it's relevant for other ones. This, again, it would be nice if you have a rough estimate of the conversion rate. So out of people who visit your gallery, what percentage of them actually become a customer, also for each of your exhibitions. So these are just some of the examples. Again, if you can give a quantifiable rough estimate of that percentages, it would be great for our next exercise. Yeah, do a bit of brainstorming. Treat it more as a brainstorming exercise. If you feel overwhelmed and you're like, okay, I don't know what list I have, or that's okay as well. But basically, we would start analyzing how to drive the traffic from cold to warm and then warm to hot and increase the customer lifetime value from each of these segments according to data that you have. It's good to have an overview of your business and knowing where you getting the traffic from, how are you driving it, is it an efficient channel for you to do, and if it's not, what else can you do to polish your assets, such as your webpage, or change up the offer?